What's up, party people?
Here.
Here with Corin. Another midweek Kyle and Corin podcast here for you.
I'm running on Dunkin's, which is American, and I'm sipping on Canada.
By the way, I have no idea if Canada Dry, is it actually made in Canada? I know that's a
I don't
stupid
know.
question.
I feel it has to probably do something with that shit. Because, is Canada even dry?
They have legal alcohol, so I guess technically they're wet. That sounded super dirty. I know the reason I ask, and the reason why that's actually not as stupid a question as it sounds, is that the bank HSBC, I think my friend told me it stands for it originally stood for Hong Kong, Shanghai, or something like that, bank something or whatever, but Britain owns it. The UK owns it, but it was originally Hong Kong, Shanghai, something.
Oh, so it originated in Hong Kong.
I think so. Something like that. But anyway, it's still HSBC, still the title still has that part of it. So Canada Dry, I don't know, maybe. I mean, I would assume it's Canadian.
Plano, Texas on it, so I doubt that's. Yeah.
So maybe I was right. So you're just getting back from a basketball thing. What were you playing in it, or you were a coach?
No, I coach a team down on the South Side. Hood ass kids, but they're good as shit. Yeah. They're seventh graders. Dude, they're I have to go my hardest against them.
Wait, so you're coaching seventh grade kids from the hood?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that is fucking awesome.
I drove to the South Side earlier today, and I was like, the only thing I could think of when we were in high school. You remember our friend Vinny? He used to live down a hill. Mm-hmm. When we had to get to his house. When I left his house one time, there was a crazy kid in our grade, Justin K. I won't say his last name, put him on blast fully. But there was always a crazy rumor, and it was always factual. There was always stories around that his brother was a lunatic. Remember?
I do. You don't have to say the names. I got you.
Yeah. So one time we were leaving Vinny's house, and I had a fly Volkswagen GTI. My car was fresh. My stepbrother had it, but he had gotten a DUI, so I had gotten the car. So I was just amped up. I was a skinny high school kid. So we left Vinny's house, and I'm driving up the hill, and there's kids in the street, and dude stops my car, gets in front of it, and it was Justin's brother. And all I had known up until this point were just crazy stories. Supposedly he went to a high school dance and stabbed somebody, and he was just a lunatic. So I was like, this dude's about to steal my car. So the only thing is so weird because today when I was driving through the South Side, I was like, there's nobody stopping, just some dude just walking in front of my car and just robbing me right now. So
wait
I thought
a
back to Joey Kaplan.
He didn't actually take it, did he?
No, he was actually mad cool. He was like, yo, what's up?
I was like, where is he going with this story?
No, I had in my head that this was when you build up somebody in your head, you assume the worst, dude. I wasn't going to think this dude was going to be he's stopping my car. I didn't think he was going to be hey, how's your day going? Which actually is
he actually stopped your car. I thought he just walked in front of it. Oh, he stopped you.
He stopped my car.
Did he put up his hand or some shit?
Something freeze, motherfucker.
That is kind of creepy.
That's and I was like, this dude's going to rob my car. What else is he going to do? He's not going to be nice.
And he just said, what's up to you?
He just said, what's up?
And you hadn't spoken to him before then?
Never met the dude.
That's so weird.
Oh, you know my brother, right? I was like, yeah.
Oh, shit. So, but that's I was going to say when you mentioned that you're coaching these kids, that I'd imagine that as far as white dudes go, you're probably one of the best in terms of communicating and getting through.
Yeah, it's we grew up in New Rochelle, which was pretty diverse. Yeah. So we've always had a good vibe, which is connecting with anybody, white, black, Spanish, Chinese, hermaphrodite, whatever. So I don't know. I feel New Rochelle was an awesome place to grow up just because there was a good mix like that. Whereas a lot of people where my wife is from, upstate New York, it's just straight white.
Yeah.
And she's half black. So for her, it was crazy, because it's she's an alien.
Yeah. She felt weird probably.
Yeah, dude. Imagine
I'd probably feel weird too.
It's dude, if you go to a different planet and everybody's just a yellow, a green color, and you're the only white color, people are gonna be like, who is this dude?
there's probably a feeling of you don't know how the mainstream is gonna accept you or perceive you, and so you gotta. And who's the burden on? Like you feel like. You probably feel like you want to be nice, but you probably feel like there's a higher chance of rejection if you're not accepted by the mainstream. Like, could you imagine being one of these poor kids who was like a gay kid or something? Like, now I feel like we're definitely moving more towards acceptance as a society of gay people and stuff. But like, when you're in like the 1970s or 60s, or the further back you go, obviously the worse it gets. But like going to high school and being gay, and everybody kind of knows you're gay, but like it's just viewed upon as like an immoral fucking choice you're making, and it's viewed as a sin, and you're not looked at like anybody else. You're just looked down upon.
My thing is, like, even if someone tries, like, I have no problem with gay people, I have no problem with black people, whatever. But for anybody, it has to cross their mind. You know, it's not like, I just feel like you can't be like, even if they're like, oh, he's gay, like, you're like, okay, I don't care. Like, it shoots a shooting star across your head. It's not like, you know, like if you see someone different than you, you're automatically gonna like have something in your head about them. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, you're saying you would acknowledge the fact that you think the person's gay or something? Yeah, of course.
Yeah,
you know? But I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I just think the reaction is what matters. So if you respond like an adult and you think, yeah, okay, whatever, who cares? You know, that's fine. It's good. I don't care. Then that's the adult's reaction. But, you know, for a long time, I feel like, so acknowledging it isn't the problem. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's not, it's almost like if you were to just talk about somebody, a friend of yours who's black, and say he's black, like, that's not a problem. The problem is the attitude towards it. And back then, it was like, you know, forget about it. You're just ostracized on another level. So,
but for some people, when they grow up, like when people are like, I don't know how this dude is racist, blah, blah, blah. Like, if you grow up with just all white people and all, you know, like, and you see something different, you're automatically going to be like, this is not like me, so it's something different.
Yeah.
I have to have a shield up, or, you know?
You know, I don't know. I've thought about this before, and I don't know. I've gone back and forth on how inherent or innate it is that. Like, so, on the one hand, I want to say, like, tribalism, which is kind of what you're talking about here, like, that might be innate in humans, just because we haven't, like, been able to shake it from like our Neanderthal ape days or whatever the fuck.
Tribalism was like, I'm white, you're white, we're on the same team.
Yeah, and it's on like a subconscious level, and it's like, we're the good guys, they're the bad guys. And it's not just with race, it's with anything. Like, we do it with country now a lot too. I'm American. You know, you're not American. There's American exceptionalism. We're better than you. You know? So, but I don't know to what extent that's innate, like I was just describing, like tribalism being the default. Or I don't know if the default is actually the opposite, and we're taught to be shitty people who are like tribalists. Because maybe the default is like open-minded, and you just, even if you acknowledge that, okay, this person's black, this person's this person's that, you know, you don't, like, why would you immediately think of that as a negative thing unless you're taught that? And the reason why I don't know is because, like, I see this with my nephew and my niece and stuff, where you look at them and they interact with all different kinds of people. And my brother-in-law told me a story where one time he asked about, like, my nephew was talking to his dad, and the dad asked, oh, like, which kid are you talking about, when he was telling a story? And he's like, the one with, I don't know, brown eyes or something, or the one with the green shirt or whatever. And so the kid that he was referring to was black. But this little kid who
didn't cross his mind
to call him black. He just thought, like, oh, it's my friend in the green shirt or whatever. You know what I mean? So that wasn't the first thing he went to. It wasn't the first thing. Like, so then that leads me to believe, and he was young when he said that. So, like, I don't know, maybe it's the opposite. Maybe then the default position is we're all just kind of cool with each other, and then you're taught by shitty parents or whatever Like, no, you got to stick with your own kind, stick with your own religion, stick with your own nationality, stick with your own race, yada, yada, yada. So I don't know. Maybe it is innate, maybe it's not innate, but either way, the answer is the same either way in terms of how we respond to it as a society, which is just obviously don't be assholes and just understand that, you're not inherently better because of your skin color or whatever the fuck it is. So
no, but I don't know. Going back to like the coaching of the kids, it's I don't know. I feel like kids from like that I've seen from inner cities or whatever just have more personality. They're smarter. They just like get things better. You can have, even though they're living in more poverty, they have like just a better understanding of like real life, whereas kids in the suburbs might not have that.
Well, I mean, it's certainly true. I don't think anybody could deny that they have more, practical, real world experience for the better, or in many cases for the worse, because it's just harder on, like, they're kind of forced to be adults at an earlier age, and they're dealing in a tougher situation than if you're talking about some, pampered kids from the suburbs who kind of were born with a silver spoon in their mouth. And that's not to put those kids down. It's not even their fault if they're, born with a silver spoon in their mouth or whatever. But like, I think you have a point there. There's something about if they went through adversity at a young age, it's almost like you can connect with them on a different level. Like you don't. To what extent? I want to ask you this: to what extent are you? Do you feel like you're more of like a hardcore coach, kind of like a boss leader, or do you feel like you're more of connecting with them on a human level and getting down at their level and talking to them like you're their boy?
100% that way.
The second way?
Second way. Just, I feel like that with anything in life, because I've had bosses that have been bosses, and I'm sure you have too, where it's just like, I'm your boss. Where I told this to my sister, she was like telling me about her boss, and the lady was like super strict and really cared about her job, whatever. But I was like, do you think she actually cares about you? Like, has she ever asked like, how's your day? Like, just whether it's quick or whether she didn't give a fuck. If someone shows that they genuinely care about you, like, I'll ask the kids whatever, just like, how's school, like something personal where it's not just like my needs. I want you to play well. Where it's like, this question is about something outside of what what we're trying to get done, which I think breaks down like a wall or a barrier, which I think the kids are smart enough at that level to understand, like, this guy's trying to make a deeper connection with me. He's not just talking about basketball. He's not just trying to get his motive through, So now when I'm on the court and I do need to do some basketball something, or I'm like, stop doing that or do this, they have more respect now, because now they know, all right, he actually, like, means this. He's not just saying it because, he wants to win. He wants me to do better. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I do. I know exactly what you're saying. And in fact, I was, for a coaching position specifically, that's actually one of the areas where I'd be more like 50-50 on it, where I would entertain the idea of like the hard-ass role, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. But at the same time, you may have just swayed me off my 50-50 on that, because that's pretty compelling, the idea of like, well, if you connect with them on a human level first, then when the time comes where you really got to get something across from a basketball perspective, like, they're willing to listen to you because they trust you.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
I spoke to a buddy of mine, and he's the opposite. I was like, what type of coach are you? And he was like, I'm like, I get on them, and I'm like, and he was like, some kids need that. They need like a father figure type that is just constantly.
Some kids do, yeah.
Yeah. So like, some kids are totally different, but I feel like just genetically, if you have just a genuine connection with someone, I think that's ultimately better than just fucking beating someone down.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, we're having the conversation about coaching now, but we've spoken about this with parenting too, and why parenting is a tough one. Because, sorry, I'm looking at the top of my screen here because somebody tweeted at me. Anyway, with parenting, I feel I go back and forth on that too, because with some kids, if you give them space and you give them room and you're like lenient, they just fucking almost take advantage, and they'll go nuts and they'll go too far and they'll do fucked up shit. But with other kids, they need that space and that room and that leniency in order
100%.
to actually become normal and thrive. And vice versa. Like some kids, if you have a strict parental figure, strict parents, they'll listen to you and they'll follow what you say and they'll stay on the path. And other kids, they will rebel because you're strict. And like it's almost like they're only doing that because you're strict. And if you were cool, it would have been the opposite. And so there's no formula. And that's why I always say, like, obviously I talk about politics and news and shit a lot. When you talk about stuff like that, it's almost easier because some of the answers are clear. And it's like, okay, so there's all these fucked up problems in our healthcare system. Well, who does healthcare the best? I just looked at the studies. It's the single-payer systems, the Medicare for all, effectively, systems in all the modern countries. So we should do that. Like, that's easy. That's an easy answer. But when you talk about something like parenting, there's nobody knows what the fuck they're doing. And
No.
Yeah, and sometimes you get lucky and you get it right, and sometimes you don't. And, how do you account for that? You can't handle all the variables, It's impossible.
Well, just playing devil's advocate, like, so obviously healthcare, I mean, there's tangible things you can look at and say that this system works, this system doesn't. But you can also look at healthcare and say it's similar to parenting where it may not work for some people, right? Or is it more on the side of it? If it's done correctly, it'll work for everybody.
With healthcare, it's a pretty cut and dry thing. I mean, that they do it better than we do it, and we kind of know that a single payer system is the best system. The only areas where one could argue they don't do well, people could say, well, for elective procedures, they have waiting lines. So for things you don't need, there's like a wait time for it.
Which makes sense.
But the counterpoint to that, I think, is compelling, which is we don't have wait times for elective procedures, but we have wait times for poor people. Like they ration care based on need. We ration care based on how rich you are. So like everybody's rationing. It's just, what are you rationing? Are you rationing based on what the person needs, or are you rationing based on how rich they are, or some other factor? So in virtually every area, like when you measure it, we pay more for our health care and get worse outcomes, higher, more longevity, I should say, in other modern nations. So yeah, we kind of get our ass kicked there. So there's a kind of a clear answer on that front. But there's some things where it's just not a clear answer, and those are difficult because for somebody like me, like for example, I feel like I have no paternal instinct. I feel like I'd be such a shitty father because like
no, but. I don't know. I'm thinking of like parenting now on like a huge scale. Like it's so important, like the impact your parents make on you, because it's just like that gets passed down and gets passed down. Like you have to be pretty strong-minded if you have a rough upbringing to at some point when you're old enough to start thinking for yourself, say like, hey, that's not the right way to do it. And like, go in the other direction.
Yeah.
Whereas like when you're young, if you're being taught something for 13 years, 14 years where you can't really make a decision for yourself, you're just going to think that that's how the shit is,
Yeah.
So if you have fucked up parents, like you got to be pretty fucking tough to like make it out of that situation.
Yeah. It's weird because there are a lot of people who like they'll have shitty parents and then they make like a commitment, I will never be like them, and then they do the opposite, But
and end up not like them, because a lot of them still end up like them.
Well, I think probably most people end up like their parents. And,
yeah.
But there are some that they'll look at, like, say the dad's an alcoholic or something, and they'll be like, I'm never going to be like that. And then they just don't ever touch alcohol, or they, it's weird. That's why there's no formula to life like that where you could just crack the code and get it, because it depends on so much. Depends on the environment, depends on the culture, depends on the DNA in the individual person. And so, yeah.
That's why it's so important where you're, like people who are born in like communities that are just diverse and have a good mix are lucky, because like I don't know, where was Bernie Sanders raised? Brooklyn?
I think he was raised in Brooklyn, but now he obviously lives in Vermont.
Yeah.
That's where the state he represents.
But like the fact that he connects with like black people, whereas like someone like Hillary Clinton just seems so like disconnected. Like you put a video up, I don't know. Is that shit real?
It's real, yeah.
Like,
it's real.
It's a good ass dap.
Yeah, no. And for people who don't know what I'm talking about, I tweeted a video. Actually, somebody else did tweet it, and I retweeted it. But it's it's Bernie Sanders starting an event and shaking people's hands down a line, and he gets to the black dude is first, and just smooth as butter. Like didn't he? It was just what it was. It was just a straight up like the official dap.
It was perfect.
Yeah.
Like,
and then he goes to the next one, shakes the hand. Yeah.
It reminded me when Obama did the same thing. Do you remember? He went to Team USA's locker room, and it was Coach K is obviously the head coach, dude, and assistant is all white guys. So he walks into the locker room and he's like, shakes their hand, and then they cut the video. You know that song that's like, my N-word, my N-word?
Yeah.
They like play that song, and he goes up to Kevin Durant after shaking everybody's hand. He's like, they slow motion it, and he's like, gives him the back thing.
That's the Key and Peele skit. There was a Key and Peele one where they basically did that. Like Obama, for all the white people, Obama's like, oh yes, thank you very much, nice to meet you. This is very good, very good. And then every time there's a black guy, he's like, yo, just gives him the official dap.
So, it takes like a art. It's a talent to like be a fucking chameleon and like talk to so many different like people like that.
Yeah.
You know, like you have that. I think I have it. A lot of people can't do that. Change, you know, like.
Well, I think you actually are like a little bit of a different person in front of different people. You know,
yeah.
Like I don't. It took me a while to finally realize that and like understand that. Because there were times when like I'd be in one situation and then you put me with a different group of people in a different situation and all of a sudden I'm a totally different person. And I'd always feel like almost like I'm selling out in a way. Like just to give one example. So let's say I'm hanging out with you and a bunch of friends. I'm one person. But then if you put me, like we've spoken about before, in the middle of like a family event, I'm just a different person. And I would feel when I'm sitting in that family event, I would think to myself, is there something wrong with me? Why can't I like act like I was acting with my friends and like just be like that right now? But then you realize, well, no, it's that the situation and the environment that you're in with the people you're around, it's just not, you can't do that without you're a crazy person and everything you say right over their head if you act the same in all the different scenarios. And everybody knows, like you go to a job interview, how do you act? You know?
Yeah, a funeral or something like that.
You go on a date, a funeral, exactly. You're a different person in all those different situations. But like, I think it's fair to say that's the norm. You know, like that's the norm. I think everybody, if you are like exactly the same in all those different situations, and you feel exactly the same, yeah, I don't know. I think that would
I'd say something's wrong with it.
Yeah, I think that would be more weird. So, but I agree. I do think that's like uncomfortable though. Maybe that's why, you know, people would accuse me of being like a loner. You know, like I'm a little bit of a loner. Like I'm a homebody. I like to kind of be by myself a lot. But I think maybe one of the reasons why I like that is I feel like maybe I get to be my truest self in that scenario. You know what I mean? Where like I could just do what I want, when I want, how I want, and it's not like a lot of people. They need their stimulation needs to come like from outside of them. Like you and I both know people. My grandma, well, one of my grandmas was she like always would want to go out and like be out and about, whether out eating dinner with people or out dancing or doing all these different things. And you know, I'm not taking anything away from her. God bless that. She likes that, by all means. That's cool. But I would hate that. Like that would just.
How are you on like the golf course? Like how would you motivate yourself? Like if someone like, I don't know if there's trash talking in golf, but if someone from the other team was like, you fucking missed that putt, pussy. Like question. Would that get you riled up, or would you get yourself riled up? Like, because when I play basketball, I need like to make a couple shots, and then I need someone to maybe like push me a little hard on a rebound or something like that, where I'm like, okay, now I'm in the game. Yeah. Whereas some people could just fucking get that click right off the bat and don't need anything.
No,
you know?
I'm a momentum player too, but external things I don't think would make me play better. So if somebody starts trash talking, I don't think that would make me play better. I don't know if it would make me play worse. I don't think it would, but it might actually make me play worse, though I don't know for sure. But I feel like I have to get the spark going myself, but I'm also like a momentum player, though. So like if I start hitting good shots or I make a birdie, then a lot more can come. You know what I mean? But yeah,
What about in the politics world if like someone like, because I've seen you get in some feuds with people.
Yeah.
What if someone was like discrediting something you were saying or something like that? Would that like feed you more? Would you be like, no, now I gotta fucking like give it to this dude?
It depends. So there are some people who I just think are so utterly ridiculous that I don't really give them the time of day. That are just so outside of the realm of that which is already settled that I think you're a silly person, and like I kind of scoff and laugh at people who want me to engage with these kinds of people. I'm not going to say the name, but there are going to be 8,000 people in the comment section who know exactly who I'm referring to. But when you're so far out of the mainstream, that's not the right way to frame it. It's not outside of the mainstream. When you're so immensely wrong on so many things that talking to somebody would be the equivalent of, like, let's go back to kindergarten now and let me hold your hand and walk you through the basics. It's like the equivalent of, like, if somebody wanted me to debate a Hindu fundamentalist or something. Like, this person literally believes in Hinduism, and now you're going to discuss that topic. I'm not interested in that.
Yeah.
So for people like that, I don't want to engage. There are other times, I'm a fan of discussions more than I'm a fan of debates, because I feel like a debate is it's a weird thing where you're turning a conversation about ideas into like a sporting event, and that doesn't do it justice. It's not that the person who makes the best sounding argument or appears the most convincing or is the better public speaker wins. That's not the reality. So that's sophistry. That's what that would be called. Where it's like, oh, it looks like that person's making a better argument, even if their point is batshit crazy. So I don't like that. I like conversations and discussions where you try to reach truth, together, and you're willing to say, you know what, hey, I was wrong about this. Another person said, you know what, I was wrong about this. Like, there was, just to give one example, there's this guy who I've done a few conversations with. I certainly don't agree with him on everything, and he certainly doesn't agree with me on everything. In fact, there's some things we vehemently disagree on. His name's Sargon of Akkad. But he had made a point once where he said, look, you're using, because I had said, he brought up like Stalin or something and communists, and I was like, well, look, can you really call them left-wing? The guy murdered all these people and did a vicious crackdown, and it was not in favor of what we would typically consider left-wing things today, not tolerant, not open-minded, not diverse, And he was like, no, your mistake is you're thinking of the political spectrum as left-wing and right-wing, and it's linear. He's like, you got to think of it as a box, and you have left-wing authoritarianism, left-wing libertarianism, right-wing authoritarian, right-wing libertarianism. And if you think of it as the box, then it's easy to see that Stalin is a left-wing authoritarian. So he's authoritarian, Kyle. That's what you're calling right-wing, but it's just authoritarianism. And so I had to think about it, but I was like, you know what? He's got a point. Because it's not fair to just categorize Stalin as a right-winger. It's that he's a left-wing authoritarian. And so, in other words, I like talking to people who it's actually fruitful, and I'm convinced that they're interested in finding truth. Yeah. And I know I'm interested in finding truth. That's when I want to do conversations and discussions and act like adults. I don't like.
Well, that's fair. I mean, that's a rare kind, because a lot of this shit now is just like debates that turn into arguments because no one has that same mindset as you, where it's like, let me try and understand what he said. If it makes sense, I can agree with him. If it doesn't, then I'll say that I don't, But
there's a second part to it, which is the kinds of people who, like you were kind of referring to. You've seen me get into like feuds with people.
Yeah.
Whenever that happens, it's because those people are the people who are so far out of what is correct that I'm frustrated at their existence and their insularity and their closed-mindedness that I'm like, I'll just rip them to shreds real quick.
And like, denial too. I've seen one where I don't know who the guy was, but you were talking and you were like, you like said this on my show, and you like found the clip.
Yeah.
And the guy was like denying it or something like that.
Yeah, there's been a few examples, and it's people like that where, again, I think there's a difference between a debate where you're in front of each other and it's presented as 50-50 and it's viewed as like, I don't like that. What I'm fine with is taking those people who are charlatans or are liars or are just so absurd in their world belief, and I love just like a cat with a fucking ball just ripping them to shreds, because that's what they deserve. They either deserve to be ignored or just utterly obliterated, and then you move on. Those are not people who you give the credibility of a fruitful discussion or conversation or something like that. Those are the people who, it's like the thing, Ken Ham versus Bill Nye. Bill Nye, of course, is the science guy, and Ken Ham is a fucking creationist. So he thinks that God created the world 6,000 years ago, and humans literally rode dinosaurs, even though dinosaurs died 65 million years ago. He believes Noah's flood is literally real, and this guy who lived to age 900 built an ark and got every animal in the world on the ark, and somehow the polar bear survived in the same climate as the fucking tigers, and he somehow made the mosquitoes have sex, and they gave birth to baby mosquitoes. Like, so that they had a debate where it was both of them on the stage, and looking back at it, I go, ugh, Bill. Like, I know Bill Nye meant well, but what happened is you just presented it as 50-50. Like, you just made it look like, oh, he's got an opinion, you've got an opinion, so go ahead, hash it out. The real format for a guy like Ken Ham, where how you interact with a guy like that, is either ignore him because he's a fucking crank, or if you're going to engage with him, you let him give a speech. Okay, go ahead, give your speech. And then you go up after and give all the fucking points where he's wrong and correct his punk ass. Because it's not a 50-50 thing. You know, like he's the crazy person and you are the fact checker. You know, it's not. It's like trying to set up this dynamic that doesn't exist, where it's one versus the other. No, it's that person's a fucking crank. You're the person with the information and the data, and it's on you to clean up the mess and say, here's where he's wrong.
Yeah, that's like if they're like, Corin Chesterton's going to talk to you about basketball with Michael Jordan,
right?
And then
and you're like, what? Like, you're obviously reasonable enough to understand.
No, like ice skating with Tanya Harding.
Yeah, exactly. Anything. It's like, know the deal. It's not 50-50. Your knowledge on that versus his is not equal. So you wouldn't even think, oh, I should be on the same stage.
But anybody who doesn't know is like, oh shit. Like if they made me come out formal and this and that, and they had a podium for me and shit, they'd be like, okay, right now I've got to listen to his side of it, and it's just like, no.
Maybe Michael Jordan is a poor example because everybody would be like, that dude doesn't know shit. But there are other, like Tanya Harding's a better example, or on ice skating or some other shit. But so I watched this thing on CNN the other day. Have you ever heard of a comedian named Lenny Bruce or no?
I have no. Okay. I have a cousin Lenny and a cousin Bruce. So
that's pretty funny.
They're brothers. I thought I was like
super random.
I was like, what? I feel like I know that dude.
Imagine I just said, "Do you have a cousin named Lenny and Bruce?" You'd be like, "What the fuck is going on here?"
What about him?
So he's this comedian who was, even before George Carlin was viewed as like, oh my God, George Carlin. He's the guy who kind of, the famous, whatever it was, 7 words you can't say on TV, and he like said all of them, and oh my God, he's really risque out there, giving this like controversial stand-up. And a lot of that credit is deserved. I love George Carlin. I loved all of his stand-up routines. But this guy, Lenny Bruce, was before him, and Lenny Bruce was the first comedian, stand-up comedian, to really talk about taboo shit. Like,
oh, really?
Yeah, like he spoke about religion and like mocked it a little bit. Not even really mocking it, but like just bringing it up in a way that wasn't like, fucking fawning agreement or adoration for it. And he would get arrested. Like, he would do these stand-up shows and he would say things that were controversial. And then he would get arrested. And it would happen all the fucking time. So he went from being a comedian that made, they said, $150,000 a year. Now, this is in money from back in the day, so that's probably...
Which is probably good, right?
It's good either way, but it's like, now it would probably be equivalent to like $1 million or some shit.
Yeah.
He went from making that to having no money and being in jail. And then eventually became a drug addict because no matter where he went to go do his stand-up, he would just get arrested. Whatever he spoke
When
about.
was what time frame was this?
I don't know. I want to say I don't remember.
If it was before Carlin, it had to be like 60s or something.
It was before Carlin. I think before the 60s, probably the 50s.
Oh shit.
Maybe 60s. Maybe you're right. Maybe 60s, 50s or 60s.
Mm-hmm.
I think. But so anyway, and then he ended up going to court over a lot of these things. And like it's guys like Lenny Bruce, like for what I do, for example, like we actually owe a pretty big debt to these kinds of First Amendment heroes that I think nothing of it. I could say anything to you right now. Mm-hmm. Fuck, shit, dick, cock, balls, fuck religion. It's all stupid. Like fuck your mother in her ass. I can say anything.
Yeah.
And it's fine, but guys like that, like, were controversial and got arrested over it and won the court battles. I'm not sure if he actually won over. I don't know how he ended up. I know he broke the mold. I don't know if his court case was the one that won it or whatever. Mm-hmm. But like that, there's rappers too who I think was it Run DMC. It may have been Run DMC.
Who just like changed the fucking like trajectory.
Yeah, like the
whatever
FCC.
That word is.
The FCC tried to like crack down.
Or NWA maybe.
It might have been NWA.
They were saying like fuck the police.
Yeah,
and,
there
like,
were rappers that did this shit where
Iverson did it with basketball.
The FCC was like, fuck you, we're going to like ban this. And they were like, okay, we'll see you in court. And then they won. So it's like people like that, these are First Amendment heroes where we take for granted. Like the U.S. is kind of, in some ways, it's specifically freer. It's specifically freer than other places. Like you can't. There was a comedian who was recently arrested in Canada, I think, for like offending somebody, like offending a disabled person or something. Like arrested over that. Like I get it if you say, hey, don't be a dick, but arrested over that?
Yeah, that's insane.
And then they have like these laws in Britain where if you're too offensive, you can just be arrested. So like
I forgot who said it, but there was a comedian. I don't know. I don't think it was Louis C.K., but he was just like, comedy is the only place now where it's like you can just say whatever the fuck you want.
Yeah.
And people were getting mad at comedians going to colleges and stuff and like saying all this shit, and it was just like, no, like comedy, like that's the point of comedy is like we can say whatever we want, And they thought that was like the last place where that exists,
Yeah.
Where any other place you say something absurd like, oh, like Asians are bad drivers or something like that, and people are like, oh, you can't say that.
Yeah.
But like they were doing it in comedy and they were getting mad at the comedians and they're like, no,
yeah, like fuck you. This is
yeah.
And look, it's not, the thing is, especially with comedy, like they even get a bigger pass than me for what I do. I'm a political commentator, so I feel like you can get mad. It's more legitimate to get mad at a political commentator than a comedian. But Louis C.K. did a joke at SNL where he said, it's crazy that there are child molesters out there. I mean, there are pedophiles out there.
Yeah, that's hilarious.
They end up, I mean, think about it, man. They take like these prepubescent kids and they fuck them, and that's horrible. But the only thing I could think about and take away from the fact that they know it's wrong, they know with every fiber of their being that it's wrong, and they still do it, is that obviously fucking kids has to feel so good. And the audience at SNL was like, oh.
They gasped.
But they laughed.
Yeah.
And the point is, like, it's a joke. He's not actually in favor of, like, decriminalizing fucking kids. So there's an art to it. And my whole thing has been, look, even if you're offended, okay, don't listen to it. You have every right to be offended, but you're not going to censor him. You're not going to shut him up. You're not going to ban him. You certainly shouldn't jail him or put him in prison or whatever.
Yeah.
And that's what happened to guys like Lenny Bruce. And that's what happened when they tried to, the FCC tried to shut down rappers. And we're, all of us today who kind of, do our thing with free expression, we owe a lot. I owe a lot to a guy like Lenny Bruce for what he did, because maybe it would be illegal for me to say the things I say if it wasn't for him. We'd
be living in a fucking like communist country or some shit like that.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on stereotypes? Because my wife got really mad at me because I have like some stereotypes. Like every time, I'm not being racist, nothing. Like every time I get like cut off or there's a bad driver, it's usually either a woman or like an Asian person. And she gets really mad at me. And don't get me wrong, like obviously there's other people who do that too, you know?
Yeah.
But the majority of the time it's that. So like there is some fact of in my life of that happening where she was like, that's not like right to say that. Whereas like some stereotypes of a certain, like Irish people like to drink beer. That's a stereotype that's true that an Irish person would say like, yeah, that's true. We like to drink beer. So, I mean, like, is it okay
Big
to say
dicks
good
on black dudes?
Yeah, like, is it okay to say is it okay to say good stereotypes about people, but not say bad, like, stereotypes about people?
Yeah.
Or should we just not stereotype at all? Should I not say anything?
You know, it's a good question, man.
Because everybody has stereotypes.
I feel like the problem, at least in my mind, like, okay, so I think what you said there is true, but maybe the emphasis is on the wrong part. So, like, when you say, obviously there are other bad drivers, but just so happens in your case that it had been either an Asian person or a woman. Like, I think the thing that maybe your wife is trying to point out is that, well, why isn't it flipped? Like, why isn't it you saying, well, look, in my experience, it's every time it's a bad driver, it's mostly been a woman or an Asian person. But, I mean, obviously they're not the only ones who drive. I think maybe the emphasis is the problem there. But to me, it's like, I think the issue with stereotypes is what comes after the first ones. Like, so there's a stereotype of like, okay, like Jews are successful, for example. Like, okay, that's a positive stereotype. That's great. But then you go the next step, and it's like, okay, Jews are all the bankers. Wait, what? Jews secretly run the economy. Wait, what? Yeah. Jews are the international cabal who are secretly screwing over the white man, and we got to get rid of the Jews. It's like, whoa, what just happened? You went from Jews are successful to this to this to this. With black people, black dudes got big dicks. It's like, okay. Then it's like, yeah, black people, they like watermelon, don't they? What? Black people love their fried chicken. What? Black people are inferior and white people are better, and you know, black people do worse economically and do more crime. It's like, whoa.
Yeah.
So it's not like, I think people get mad because they want to nip it in the bud and they want to say, look, we know what's coming next, son. Like, if you give that much, then is the thing that's coming next the thing that's untrue? You know what I mean? So,
yeah, I guess it's like, how far would you take it? Because then it's like, not that I think this, but like if we got on a plane or something and the pilot was Asian, like, is my wife or someone thinking like, oh, no, he thinks our pilot's not going to be good? You know, like, it's like every time now I see an Asian, like, managing some vehicle, am I being racist? Like,
and it's also, you know what I think it is, man? And here's the other problem with it. So it could be the case that, like, okay, like the example you gave with driving. Okay, most of the times you saw a bad driver, it was a woman, so, you know, that was your interpretation of what happened. But it could also still be the case that most women are not bad drivers. You see what I'm saying? So, like, it could be the case that in your experience, the people who were bad drivers who you saw were mostly women or Asian people or whatever. But it also could be the case that most women and Asian people are not bad drivers. But, you know,
I guess I don't realize when someone's a good driver. I only notice the bad times. You know, like,
but there's
a lot of good Asian drivers in fucking Fast and Furious.
I'm trying to make the point about the same point that, because that's always been my response to the black crime thing. That, remember we spoke about this last time, how there are some people who are like, the violent crime rate among black people is higher. And when you actually go to the numbers, that's true. There's more violent crime done by black people than white people, for example, as a statistic, as a percentage, I should say. But the counterpoint to that is, it's a weird fact to bring up, because you can't, if you say that without saying the next thing, it's wildly irresponsible. Because the next point to make is, even if that's true, the difference is negligible, and the overwhelming majority of black people are not criminals and don't do violent crime. So when you bring up that, it's almost like misleading by its nature. And I feel like maybe that's the case with other stereotypes too, where it could be true that, you know, the bad drivers you saw were women, but it also could be true that most women aren't necessarily bad drivers. You know what I'm saying? So I don't know. It's an interesting conversation, and I think most people would never even have it. You know what I mean? Like a lot of people would go, whoa, let's not have this conversation.
I feel like more people are on the side of like they have their stereotypes, and like every person has stereotypes, you know, whereas like I don't think everyone's so quick to be like, whoa, like that's not true. Everyone can agree on like some certain stereotypes for people, you know?
You think so? I don't know. I feel like in polite society, if you will, I don't think I've ever experienced people breach that topic. Like whenever, it's good that we're talking about it because it's good to have the conversations. But I think there are people who, if we were to bring it up, they'd be like, whoa. Why are you talking about that? Like, and I've spoken about politics and religion in situations where you probably shouldn't talk about it, but very rarely do stereotypes come up. But it's an interesting conversation.
Well, I mean, like
to have.
there's stereotypes in politics where it's like conservatives are usually rich, just like arrogant, whatever, like people who only care about themselves, and liberals are just like hippie-ish people, right? I mean, like, aren't there stereotypes in politics?
Yeah, those are two of the stereotypes, or like redneck hillbilly people.
Yeah.
Again, I think the problem is it's like there's a grain of truth in it, but it's just not the whole picture. Like I think we just got our rule on stereotypes. That's it right there. There's a grain of truth in stereotypes, but it's not the whole picture. So don't get too mad at people if they
I was just gonna say,
appear to be stereotyping. Explain it, discuss it, and also, you know, I think that's a good rule, right? There's a grain of truth in it. I think it's fair to have, but it's not the whole picture.
Fair to have a discussion on it would be. I can say my point that, you know, okay, men can be bad drivers too, but in my situations, when something is usually bad, it tends to be a woman.
So, but okay, so now put me in the car with you and your wife. Somebody just cut you off. What do you say? Do you say something?
Well, if I don't see what they look like, I'll pull up next to them and be like, watch, this is going to be either a woman.
Oh, shit.
Or like an Asian lady.
That's sort of fucked up.
But not really, because every time I'm usually right. But don't get me wrong. It's men, it's
but when
anybody.
You do it, when you do it, when you're wrong, do you feel like...
Yeah, I feel a little fucked up.
Like you feel like a double dick. Like not just a stand... Yeah, you're like, fuck. And then your wife looks at you like, that's right, bitch.
Yeah, and then that puts me back in my place where I'm like, all right, you're right. I fucked up.
Yeah.
But when I'm right, I'm like, okay. I guess I'd have to see some like facts on it and see like if that was actually true or not. But that's hard.
Yeah, I don't think anybody's ever studied it. You know, Sam Harris of all people, who I'm not the biggest fan of, but he made an interesting point about this, where he said, "Look, there's some topics that are open, like you can empirically study them, like you could do a study on it, but anybody who would want to, you'd have to question their motives." And I'm not talking about us for the driving thing, but I'm saying, you know, like the black crime one is another one. It's like, okay, anybody, if you want to dig deeper into that, why are you trying to dig deeper into that? Yeah. Usually the person who's doing it is like, because I want to get rid of you fill in the blank. I want to get rid of the N-words. That's what I want to do. And it's like, oh, so you're trying to justify it. So it's like, some of these things have, you know, there is information and knowledge available, but if you're really that interested in it, it's like, whoa, pump your brakes. Why is this even a thing? But I think I'm comfortable with our new rule on stereotypes here, that a grain of truth, stereotypes show a grain of truth, but not the whole picture. Mm-hmm. You know?
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, you know, Bill Maher, actually, from back in the day, in one of his old stand-up bits, he said, one of the things he said was, he just says, stereotypes are true, period. And he knew, and one of another friend of mine, he says that too. He's like, stereotypes are true. Like, it's just that simple.
Cut and dry? Yeah, I don't think it's that simple. Because
I don't either. I think it's a little more nuanced than that.
I've been on the side of it where, like, I've had a friend be like, oh, like, what, like, to some, like, why are you jilling me down? I'm just like, Like, what does that even mean? Because I've known Jews that are like the first one to give me or something like that. So it's like it goes back to parenting and like whatever. If your parents are part racist or whatever, and they teach you, that Jews have always been cheap or whatever, the kids are gonna think that. So it's like
I've been guilty of saying gypped. I've been gypped. You know what that comes from?
Is that a thing?
That's a slur.
Gypsy?
Yeah, it comes from gypsy. And it's like, whatever, you do like some trickery shit. Gypsies, and and they don't even want to be called gypsies. They want to be called, I think, Roma people.
Are there still gypsies?
No, yeah, but they're like gypsy is apparently like a slur. Like you don't call them gypsy. It's like calling somebody the N-word. Like they say, no, call us Roma. I think it's Roma, but I could be mistaken.
Oh, really?
And also apparently it was the same for Eskimos, but then it was not the same for Eskimos. Like Eskimo is a slur, and they want to be called Inuit or something. I can't keep up with all this stuff, man. Like that's one thing where I'm not as liberal as a lot of other people on some of these things. Like, so
well, what about like the Washington Redskin things? Like people are pissed about that, but then they've asked about that, Native Americans,
and they said we
like,
don't care.
It doesn't. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So again, I'm a little bit more of a conservative or moderate on these than a liberal because so for example, one of the other ones was. First, they referred to people as illegal aliens, and then they went, whoa. You can't call them illegal aliens. You're calling them an alien. The reason why you're calling them an alien is because you're trying to say you're trying to dehumanize them and say they're not humans, they're aliens, they're foreign. Mm-hmm. So then they changed it from illegal alien to illegal immigrant. And then they still went, whoa. You said illegal. No person can be illegal. Only actions can be illegal. So if you call a person illegal, that's wrong and you have to change it. And so it went from illegal alien to illegal immigrant to undocumented immigrant. But then the thing that gets me is like they're just going to change that in a year and a half.
Yeah.
And then they're going to say, whoa. Undocumented? Really? So you're saying that they don't have the same kind of papers as you do and the papers make the human being? Why are we even referring to papers as if they're relevant? We're talking about human beings here. So it'll just change. It'll just keep fucking changing. Yep. And I don't know, at some point do you get to draw the line? Because I'll tell you what, there's some of them that I didn't think maybe would have taken hold and then they took hold. Like, for example, you weren't allowed, I think, Oriental versus Asian. So Orient people, like you talk to an old white dude, and they might even say it today, like the Oriental over there or something, and they mean like an Asian person. And
Oriental's not right?
No, if you say Oriental, that means from the Orient, so it's like that region. But now the argument is, well, but Oriental is a rug, not a person. So person, you call that person Asian, not Oriental. So anyway, it just keeps changing. Yeah. So like I'm always trying to walk the line between not being a dick, but also not being a ridiculous person. Where like now, for example, you're supposed to say not disabled, but differently abled. Like, because they're saying no. If you say it's disabled, you're putting them down. You're supposed to just say it's different. Like it's not that you're better because you have functioning legs. It's that you're different. It's like, but come on. Yeah. If you talk to that person, they'll tell you, I wish I had my fucking legs. It's not like it's equally preferable to not have legs than to have legs. So look, I draw the line sometimes, dog. I mean, I might be an asshole.
Some people are really against the R word, R-E.
Retarded, yeah. I got in trouble over that. People got mad at me because I say that still from time to time.
Really?
People are like, how dare you? But you got whatever I would replace it with, eventually you'd say, stop saying that too.
Yeah.
So
someone tried to make the argument that word actually means like something to that cause.
The word retarded comes from the word retard, which means to slow down. So to slow. So, but it was used for people who, mentally, psychologically, they're slow.
Uh-huh.
So, but whatever word, like, that, it doesn't mean that I'm not in favor of helping people who are disabled. I want to give everybody health care. Of course, I want to give everybody as much of an opportunity as they can. I'm not trying to disenfranchise them or kick them out of society or do anything like that. But, like, I've talked about Republicans and called, this guy's paranoid schizophrenic. There are actual paranoid schizophrenic people in the world. Am I being disrespectful to them? Like, it just never ends. Like, you can't... Like, I get the idea of wanting to protect them and protect the community, but at a certain point, you have to say, but part of equality means treating them equally. So if I call somebody a bitch, does that mean I'm being disrespectful to female dogs? Like, does that mean I'm being disrespectful? Bitch is a term that's used for women all the time. Like, am I being disrespectful to all women if I call a guy a bitch or something? Like, no, it's just, you stop. I think intent is the most important thing, whatever the intent of the person is. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I'm not against disabled people, and I don't want to hurt them, and I don't want to not have a society that's kind and just and right. But if you want me to call them differently abled now, and then you're going to change it again in 3 weeks, at what point do I draw a line? Do I say, you know what, you got to piss off? So again, I think it's a balancing act, because some of them I haven't given up on, and I don't know if I'll stop using, like retarded.
Yeah.
But some of them, like if you were to go back on some of them now, you would just be a dick. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Like, and so if I were to just randomly start calling Asian people Oriental people, it's like, oh, you're a dick. Like, that's what you are. You're a dick. And people would be right to say, Kyle, you're a dick for doing that. So I don't know. But that's the thing, man. Like, in some ways, I would be conservative if you were to put me on a college campus today. I'm telling you, man, some of these things we didn't even see. Like, we weren't around for.
No.
Like, there's this new thing. It's not, but again, they maybe would say it's not new, but it's new to me. Like, I just recently learned about it. But it's called gender fluid. Have you heard about this?
No.
So gender fluid is, I saw a little like clip from like 60 Minutes or something. There's this guy, he's a dad, and he's gender fluid now. And so what he does is, in the middle of the interview, he's talking to whoever the journalist or the reporter or the host is. And he goes, yeah, so gender fluid means sometimes I'm a woman and sometimes I'm a man.
What?
And the host is like, okay, so like, how does it change? Can it change in the middle of a conversation? And he's like, yep, whoop, it just changed right now. And she's like, wait, it changed right now? He's like, yep, right now I'm a woman. And she's like, I don't understand.
People are just making up their own shit.
No,
now.
but see, that's my point. That's the point I was going to get to, which is, look, so the point that they would make is, here's what they would say. I'm going to be as fair as I can to their argument. They would say, well, back in the day, the response that we're having right now to gender fluid is how people responded to transgenderism and how people responded to just gay people. They'd say, oh, yeah, you're attracted to the same sex, that's what you're attracted to? Or they would say, oh, really? So you're born a man but you feel like a woman? Really? So that would be their point. So they'd say, like, why would you be open-minded only to that end, and you draw a line and say, this shit isn't real? But I think
that's so tough. Just like, where do you draw the line between someone just making some shit up or someone actually like switch from a man to a woman without like being sane and just being like, dude, like there's something off with you that you can't do that. You know?
So you're getting to my ultimate conclusion now, and it sounds like you're about where I am on this. Here's the difference, I think. There are people who are actually gay. Like, there are people who are actually attracted to the same sex. And whether it happens totally biologically and that's just how they're born, or whether it's something that happens to them when they're young and however they're raised or whatever, and then it just gets set in stone in their mind and then they're gay or whatever, or they're bi, that exists. I'm convinced 100% transgenderism exists. So you're born biologically male, but you feel 100% female, and you feel like you're living a lie if you go out dressed like a man and acting like a man. So you say, I want to be a female. So I'm 100% convinced that exists.
Yep.
I'm just not convinced that gender fluid is a real thing. I think the point you made is a fair point, which is, at what point do you go from, oh, this is like a kind of a naturally occurring thing in nature in a certain percentage of people, which I think is the case for transgenderism and gay people and bisexual people. At what point do you go from that to, oh, you're just like a little off your rocker, like you're just kind of off, and that's not really a thing, you know? Like, and I think that's a fair place to draw it, man, because I don't think that's real. I don't think you. I mean,
because then there also becomes like, there's like safety issues that come into play or something like that, where it's like, if someone gets raped or if this happens, you know, your defense is like, oh, for that moment I was a man, you know, and it was like, nope, sorry, like, I was a woman at that point. That's why I went into the women's bathroom, or like if you were a man and you went into the women's bathroom and you're like, no, it clicked on me where I was a woman, and you like saw some women undressing in a locker room or something. It's like there's issues outside of, just being able to make a decision that could potentially hurt other people, where it's like you have to take that into account. You know what I'm saying?
I mean, that's an argument that has been used against trans people that I don't buy. So they say, like, oh, the reason why you can't, like, treat transgender people like they want to be treated is because, God forbid, you let them go into the bathroom of their choice, and they're going to, like, molest kids in there. Problem is, there's no evidence that happens. It just turns out that trans people want to use the bathroom that they want to use.
But the trans people, I feel like, have made either a decision or it's just natural that they have chosen to be that other sex, like, for the rest of their life. Like Bruce Jenner is a man. He chose to become a woman for the rest of his life. Someone, like, just flipping the switch on and off, to me, is just like, no.
Yeah, they could be trolling, dude. Let's just keep it real. Let's just say it. In some, like, you could just be trolling. You could just be trolling. Nobody's trolling who's trans, who literally wakes up every day and dresses as the opposite fucking sex, and in some cases gets a fucking sex change. It gets their dick chopped off and their balls chopped off. They ain't playing. Like, that's some shit that's really, really real, and it's there. But if you're, I'm a man, I'm a woman, I'm a man, I'm a woman, I'm a man, I just changed right now. Fuck off, son.
Yeah.
And guess what? People are going to listen to this conversation, and some people will call you and I bigots. But that's not bigoted, and you can't just say...
But you're allowed to, like, contest some things, like...
Well, that's my point, is like, so what are the rules? Or is there just... On the issue of sex and gender, are you just never allowed to have a conversation about it and question it? Ever? Under any circumstances? Is that just off the table for rational conversation? Because, I mean, if you call anybody a bigot who has questions about this stuff or doesn't agree with some of this stuff... Well, then you're just perverting the word bigot, because that's not bigoted at all. It's just saying I'm not buying some of the shit you're selling. Like,
or just like skeptical of it. Yeah, I think it's okay for people to be skeptical, because I don't know. I just think there should be some guidelines for such a big topic.
There's a historical record of people who are trans, and there's a historical record of people who are gay. I don't know of any historical record of people who are gender fluid and who just go back and forth. And I don't get, like,
but
what's
maybe
up with
he's
the
like
obsession with gender too? Like, is it really something that even merits all that much thought? Like, you are what you are, you know what I mean? So unless you're really oppressed and put down, and gay people are oppressed and put down, and trans people are oppressed and put down, then what's the issue? Like, here's another one. Like, they added the LGBTQ community recently became like the LGBTQIA or something. And I was like, what the fuck? You're just going to end up with the whole alphabet if you keep fucking going. It makes no sense. You got to chill at a certain point. But the A they put on at the end of it is for asexual. Now, here's the thing on asexual people. They exist. So asexual, just people who really are not interested in sex. Like, they just are really not interested in fucking or anything. Okay. Now, I'm totally cool with that, and I support your right to do that, and we could be friends. Cool, great, no problem with that at all. But why are they included in that group when there's a massive amount of discrimination against gay people? There's a massive amount of discrimination against trans people. There's no discrimination against asexual people. You just don't want to have sex, and that's fine.
There's probably like 6 of them out there, though.
There's probably, I don't know, I'm making up numbers here, but maybe 1% or 2% of the population or something. One of every 100 or 2 of every 100 people. But, like, you see what I'm saying? Like, there are no laws against people who are asexual. So why are you trying to... It just seems like an unnecessary thing for you to hop onto the victim train and say, "Oh, I'm with these people," but you're not. You're not discriminated against. They're discriminated against like fucking crazy. Gay people get killed in 11 different countries. In over 80 countries, it's illegal to be gay. Forget about trans people. Trans people have it even worse. When you look at the hate crimes against trans people and shit, through the fucking roof. Yeah. So how can you say, "Oh, I don't like to have sex," but now I'm going to join them and be like, There's no laws against you. There's no like people. If somebody says I'm asexual, does anybody even look down on that?
No.
Well, I would. If anything, I go, fuck. You're fucking lucky. Because I'll tell you what. I wish my dick wasn't fucking, controlling my life so often. You have a fucking backup.
But that goes back
cum.
to, I think our natural needs are to have sex and like think about sex. Like that's just instilled in us. So if someone's asexual, that'll like raise a red flag for me too, because I'll be like, something's up with that dude, because he's just naturally not getting what we're supposed to have. Like it's in our nature to reproduce and to.
No, but here's why I think that's wrong. So it's generally in humans that we want to reproduce and expand and evolve and stuff. But with gay people, they want to have sex with the same sex. They're attracted to the same sex. So they're not reproducing. But I don't think there's nothing wrong with that. It's just, it is what it is, and they are who they are. So with asexual people, and by the way, asexual people, I think most of them are still physically capable of having sex and reproducing. They're just really not all that interested in sex. So I don't think there's anything wrong with it. You think there's I've gone days where I wasn't horny all day, and it's just like, okay, now imagine that every day. Which is hard.
That's hard. I don't know. To me, that's hard. It raises a red flag for me. For someone even when I hear about these like crazy religious couples that don't have sex until marriage and stuff like that, I'm like, that's not natural. Like to me, it doesn't seem like it's natural. Like I think it's very like personal to have that like intimate connection with another human being.
Okay, so wait. They do have intimate connections with other human beings, and many of them are in relationships. They just don't like sex that much. They just don't like sex. I keep saying it the same way when I'm trying to say it a different way.
I don't know. I think just being like suppressed and not being able to have sex. Not being able to.
But they're not suppressed. They're just not interested in sex. It's just not. It just doesn't occur to them. They're just like they're. Like when you think about sex, or when I think about sex, or when most people we know think about sex, they go, yeah. They go, yeah, let me get some of that. But these people are just like, doesn't do anything for them. It's like me thinking about knitting. When I think about knitting,
like
I go,
that's like seeing like an alligator or like a lion who doesn't want to attack like a human being in the forest or something. Like a bleeding human being, if you throw it into like
really think it's that weird? Like some people not being interested in sex at all?
Dude, if you had a bleeding baby and you threw him into a swamp and like an alligator just
I'm committing murder.
No, I'm just saying, like if you saw an alligator who like is supposed to just eat and attack and whatever, and you had like a bleeding something or a piece of meat, whatever. And the alligator wasn't eating it, you'd be like, something's up with that alligator.
Yeah, he's not hungry.
That's what I'd say. A shark. You wouldn't just assume that a shark is always hungry. You would just be like, something's off with that shark.
No, look, here's the thing.
Like, so maybe he doesn't like humans?
You mentioned before, like, it just doesn't strike me as natural. But the definition of natural is something that occurs in nature. And it's just a matter of fact that in humans and in a bunch of different, species, there are going to be a certain percentage, albeit a small percentage, who are asexual and are just not interested in it. And to me, that's the same thing as a certain percentage of the population is going to be gay. A certain percentage, a smaller percentage is going to be trans. And it's just part of the diversity and variety in nature. And I don't think that there's anything negative about that or wrong about that. The reason why I was kind of going after asexual people before is just because I feel like it's just it delegitimizes and it's disrespectful to trans people and gay people to try to equate your struggle, your almost non-existent struggle, with their actual struggle, with all the laws that are against them. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You're just super baffled by their existence. You're like, what? Asexual?
I just think even
you want to fuck.
Well, not just me, but even gay people, lesbians, bisexual, whatever.
They're all trying to get their nut some way.
Yeah, I still think they're like their main goal, whether they say it or not, is to reproduce. For
You think
someone
so?
not wanting to
That's a very
reproduce.
Darwinian view. It's interesting. I don't know. I think there's a grain of truth in what you're saying, but at the same time, I mean, I guess you could almost boil down anything to that. Like, it's Chris Rock's old joke. Why do dudes get expensive cars? Because they know women like expensive cars. And it just goes through everything. Like, why do they have, big houses? Because they would fucking live in a cardboard box if you let them fuck them in you. Fuck you in one.
Yeah, no.
So, yeah, but I don't know. I feel like there's a grain of truth in that, but at the same time, like, not everything I do is about sex, or just a lot of it is.
Yeah, I think with everybody, like, ultimately...
Not with everybody, but with a lot of people.
Yeah, okay, not everybody, because there are asexual people, but... I don't know.
And libidos vary in nature, too. Let's not forget that. Like, there are some people who... Like, we've experienced it. When you're going through the fucking, like, the dead heat of fucking puberty, and you just got barrels of cum you're trying to get out of you on a daily basis. Like, there are those days when you're going through puberty where it's just like, I beat off 4 times today, and I'm going to go beat off again. And it's like, so that is a time when your libido is fucking super high. But then there are other times, where you're no longer in the heat of puberty, and you're, you're busy all day doing something that you like, whatever it is, a fishing trip, whatever. That never crosses your mind, you never think about it. When back in the day, you'd just have a raging hard-on because you're breathing. You know what I'm saying? So, like,
but I think it gets built up, where that time where you do have it is like...
It does get built up, that's true.
Even more of an urge,
Yeah.
So it's not like that day you went without it, just went unnoticed. That next time you do whatever you were about to do...
Yeah, that's true.
It's going to be like... Brr.
But there's the libido, like, libidos do vary in nature, though. Like, there are some people who are just like, I gotta fuck 3 times a day, blah, 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 blah. And then there are other people who are like, yeah, once a week is what I do, and where's my stapler, and and so it's not that, I don't know, it doesn't seem like that much of a stretch to me that there are going to be some people who are like, I don't like sex. I mean, I'd be like, really? You know what you're missing? But who knows? I'd be interested in talking to somebody who's asexual just to, feel it out more. But I want to be clear. I'm not trying to be too much of a dick against them. I'm just saying, I just found it weird that they're kind of lumped in with transgender people and
well, none of those people should be lumped in together, because ultimately they all have their own struggles, and it's not the same shit.
That's true. Like, but I don't think, is it wrong of me to say I don't think there's any oppression against asexual people? Like, I think there's a lot of oppression against the other group. So just even if on the basis of just saying, hey, you are all oppressed, I get lumping them together. But with the asexual people, it just strikes me as something that's different but not discriminated against or oppressed. I mean, I guess the only argument they can make is, hey, like, married couples get a lot of tax breaks, and in my asexuality, I don't want to get married or whatever, so why don't I get a tax break? Maybe there's an argument there. I don't know, I guess. But outside of that, like, what? There are no laws saying you can't get married or do all these different things. You know what I'm saying?
We're sort of discriminating, like, the LGBTQ in a sense. Yeah. We're discriminating them by putting them in their own fucking group as that category. So it's like...
that's the conservative argument. Yeah, they say this all the time. Like, they say... call... Like, so for example, if I were to talk about a case of racism, and I were to say, hey, there was this black guy who was walking home from work, and this KKK guy beat his ass with his group of his friends or whatever, and this is wrong, man, and we got to protect the black community and do the right thing, they would go, oh, you're so racist. And you're like, wait, what? And they go, well, look, you just spoke about what happened, and you said we have to protect the black race. So you're singling out the black race. And so in other words, you're not saying we're all equal and we're all the same. You're saying there is a black race and we need to protect the black race. Therefore, you're the racist. It's like, wait, what? So they flip it. They always so it's like, okay, by talking about protecting downtrodden communities, gays, lesbians, religious minorities, whatever, trans people, black people, people of color, They go, just by acknowledging that there are those communities and those communities aren't part of humanity and the broader community, that's bigoted. So I don't agree with that. I think that's like the acute little...
Yeah.
It's like calling out racism is racist. It's like, what? No. Because then by that logic, you can never discuss when there is like overt racism or overt bigotry. Because they go, just by the fact that you're discussing it, it's racist because you're dividing us by discussing it. No, I'm just pointing out what is and saying we should not do that. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, so I take back my...
But I know what you're getting at. That's there's a kernel in what you're saying that's real. But it's just, you got to, just flesh it out a little more. I got to tell you this story about what happened this weekend. So I was at a family thing. I won't give away too much information because I don't know how much information that people would want to be given out. But there was a debate with a very extended family member where look, man, I wasn't trying to talk about it. I don't want to go into politics or religion or anything like that in certain situations. This was one of them. But somebody had brought up some question about politics, and I answered it. It was a nothing side point. But that opened up, the can of worms. And this guy, super duper, older white dude, he went right to the Obama's the worst president we've ever had.
Oh, damn. And
I was like, look, I'm gonna just let that float out there. Like I wasn't taking the bait. I was like, I'm not taking the fucking bait. But then they dug a little deeper because he was talking about, all these illegals. The illegals are the problem. What's Trump doing wrong? It's not Trump isn't doing anything wrong. The problem is all these illegals. You want people to come in this country and commit all these crimes and do all these things. It's terrible. And Obama was one of the worst presidents we ever had. And then I didn't even make the point. Somebody else made the point. Obama actually broke the record for deportations. So here this guy is ranting against illegals, and he's saying, these illegal immigrants are so wrong and bad, and Obama's the worst president ever. But wait a second. By your own logic, you should be giving Obama credit. Because Obama broke the record on deportations. And he's like, oh, yeah, okay, but look. Yeah. Like, he just kind of brushed it off, and then I had to jump in. Because I was like, no. You fucking contradicted yourself. You said that's your standard. Like, the illegals are bad. Obama broke the fucking record on deportations. He did what you wanted him to do, and you're not giving him credit. And he was like, that's wrong. No. He was like, you know what that is? Then he came up with this bullshit. He goes, you know what that is? But that's just catch and release. So what they do is right when they come across the border, they catch them and then they send them back. That's what that is. And I'm like, that's when I got heated because I was like, isn't that what you want? Isn't that what you want? Like, he's saying it as if it's like aha, I gotcha. But, like, no, you're just reiterating something that you want, and you want it. But because Obama did the thing that you want, you're saying, I'm not going to give him any credit. And then I really lost a lot of hope in that moment because I realized something. I'm guilty of projecting a certain level of reason and rationality onto people that sometimes they just don't deserve. So,
what do you mean by that?
So what I mean by that is, here you have a guy who's just drunk on Fox News, and all he does is digest Fox News and hear all the time, Obama's the worst, Trump's the best, Obama's the worst, Trump's the best, and everything else in his mind is just a minor detail. So, like, contradictions are irrelevant. They don't exist. When you point out that, you like deportations? Obama broke the deportation record. I don't care. You could point out to him, Obama cut small business taxes over 16 times. I don't care. You could point out, Obama cut the deficit. He inherited a $1.4 trillion deficit. He cut it to about $600 billion by the time he left. I don't care. You could point out, hey, he doubled the stock market when he was in there. He created over 18 million private sector jobs. All these things are conservative things that they say they love. He wouldn't care. And so I realized that it's just a sad reality that there are so many people who are too far gone and their tribalism is so deep that the facts of reality really don't matter. Like, it really doesn't matter. Donald Trump could nuke a country tomorrow, and this guy would defend Donald Trump. Obama could have given everybody free health care and saved us money in the process. It wouldn't matter. This guy would be against it. Obama could have gotten world peace, cured cancer, and this guy would have come up with a reason to say cancer is good or cancer is necessary or, whatever, or he didn't really do it and he's taking credit. Like ruthless, rigid partisans are just so sad.
So would that just give you no hope?
I just lost a lot of hope in that moment because I was like, you would think people would, because look, as somebody who thinks about politics in an issues-based way, I don't give a shit about party. Donald Trump got rid of TPP. I gave him credit for that because I agree with getting rid of TPP. I care about the actual issues. But there are so many people who just have their fucking blinders on, and they're like, my team is the good team, and my politicians are the good politicians, and I'll defend them no matter what, and I'll argue against the other team no matter what, to the point where even when you literally catch him directly in a contradiction, where he was just saying he likes deporting illegals, and Obama broke a fucking record on that front, he was still like, no. He's finding a way to not say, I don't want to give him credit for what he did, something I know I like.
So let me ask you something, because I had this, someone was having this conversation. I was listening to it. I wasn't involved in it. But they were like, I'm so against people who vote straight party on a ticket. And the other person was like, the first person who said it was like, I think those people are so dumb, and it's the dumbest thing for them to vote straight party. And the other person took a lot of offense to it and was like, I vote straight party because ultimately, if the person was liberal, they're like, I don't want to vote for a conservative who maybe I agree with, because down the road, they have to vote for people higher than them and make decisions with people higher than them, which ultimately I might not agree with. So I vote straight party, Democrat, because they align more with what my values are, whether or not I like that particular person or not. What are your thoughts on that? Like, are you okay with people voting straight party?
So I never vote for races I don't know anything about. If I'm casting a vote, I know about it. So when I get a ballot on election day, there will be lower level things, and some of them I don't know anything about. Like some of them will be, whatever, like judge positions or fucking supervisors or state senators or whatever the fuck. And if I see names and I don't know them, I just don't fill it in. I just leave it blank.
No, but so say you saw a judge who's super conservative, but like for some reason you were like, I agree with everything that person says. That judge may ultimately have a decision on Congress they have to make, where that person might have to make a choice on selecting someone for the Supreme Court. Where would you be like, I'm not going to vote for that person who I definitely agree with because they could have a bigger say,
No, I don't think I know what you're saying. I in terms of voting party line though, I say people should only vote for people who they've researched and they know about. And oftentimes you'll find that when you do that, you will be voting straight party line. Now the difference is, what I'm willing to critique my people in my party who make shitty decisions and call out those shitty decisions. You know what I'm saying? And I'm willing to give credit to people in the other party who make some decisions that I might agree with. The story I was just telling before, the guy can't even give credit. You know what I'm saying? Where he knows Obama did something he agrees with. And that's the kind of partisan bullshit I'm talking about. But in terms of voting for, a Republican, I don't know, man. The only I could definitely heavily consider it if it was Rand Paul versus Hillary Clinton in the general election. I would have really thought about it, because Rand Paul's like the best Republican and Hillary Clinton is like one of the worst Democrats. So because he would have been better on war, he would have been less involved in war all over the world. He would have been better on like drug policy and some social issues. And she probably would have been better with little things here and there on the economy. Like she wouldn't have cut the social safety net as much as he wanted to. And so that would have been a tough decision. But yeah, voting party line is probably, I would say, probably what most people do. Like usually if you're a Democrat, you vote all Democrat. If you're a Republican, you vote all Republican. But a lot of people vote on things that they don't know all the people they're voting on. Yeah.
Unless you're like really into politics and like know all the shit. Like people get into I
No,
remember I
but
used to go to the voting booths with my
local,
dad.
man. He knew all the
He
stuff?
No, he would just
Okay.
like for like the top thing, he'd be like, boom,
Yeah.
like Democrat. And then all other shit, he would just Democrat, Democrat. He was like, because they align with what the fuck I align with, you know? Like,
Yeah, yeah. Um, with local politics stuff and state stuff, it's just harder to find information on it. That's the problem. Like with national, we all know a decent amount, or I certainly know a decent amount because I'm fucking buried in it all the time. But even me, and with how much I know about politics, even I don't know a lot about the super local elections and shit. Yeah, that's just a personal thing of mine that I don't vote for races I don't know anything about. But I don't think that's crazy to do what your dad does. You know, to
yeah, because
vote
the person that was having the argument like was like, I think it's like it. He was really like, the people are dumb. Like,
for voting
I was
party
like,
line.
yeah. I was like,
No,
you're
I
being
don't
a
think
little
that.
bit
No,
dick.
yeah, I don't think that's dumb. I think it's dumb. I think what's dumb is what I was talking about with this guy who,
Yeah.
like, you can't even acknowledge when somebody of the other party does something good, you know, or not good in that case because I don't agree with Obama, but he does and he doesn't admit it. That's the point, and it's just sad that these are not principled people. Before we leave, because we're running out of time here, but I just wanted to talk about one other thing. Circumcision. Your thoughts. We spoke about this once before, I think.
I think it's definitely necessary for the peni to look normal.
Peni! So, okay, there's a lot to say about this, but I'll try to make it brief. So, yes, there is now a thing that's like a cultural thing, and it's certainly undeniable. And I've experienced it, you've probably experienced it, but if you have a conversation with any woman, they will tell you, circumcised. Circumcised, circumcised, circumcised. Don't put that fucking gross anteater snout in front of me if it's uncircumcised. It's, in my experience, across the board, it's unanimous. Like, no, circumcised is the way to go. Now, I'm circumcised, so I guess yay in that front, but here's the thing. It's fucking genital mutilation of a baby. Like, that's what it is. Like, you're cutting off the tip of a baby dick. That's just what it is. You are snipping off the tip of a baby dick. And so now they have all these arguments that they use where they go, no, see, it's better because what you're doing is you're preventing against these diseases, which inevitably can come, and there's a certain X amount percentage less chance of you getting the disease, and that's why it's the right thing to do. Yeah, but the counter argument to that is, even if that is true, yeah, you can stop all fucking... or you could cut diseases by fucking 95% if you just chop off their dick and balls. Doesn't mean you should do it. You know what I mean? Like, I said 95 and not 100% because I guess somebody could put it in your ass and you can get a disease. But you see what I'm saying? Like, you could cut diseases massively, just chop off the dick. That doesn't mean you should chop off their dick. That's not a good measure. And furthermore, how circumcision originates is religion. It all goes back to religion, and it's stuck with, like, old school, like, culture. And it just stuck with us for some reason. But now that it's so deeply ingrained in everybody's heads that, again, it's unanimous in my experience that women are like, it needs to be circumcised. So, and that's viewed as normal. Like now, like a circumcised dick is viewed more as like a normal dick versus an uncircumcised dick, which is a natural dick. So, you know, I was asked, hey, would you circumcise your son? And I know that it's genital mutilation of a baby. I know it's wrong, but the power of culture is so strong that even I paused. And even I was like, well, look, if you leave him uncircumcised, you're handicapping him a little bit down the road when, you know, he realizes that if the culture doesn't change in this short amount of time, which I don't think it will, that most women want a circumcised dick and his dick is not circumcised, and like it's just so that's the norm now in Western culture that it's like you're almost handicapping the kid in a way.
I think over time, like we grow. I mean, like women back in the day, they probably all had hairy armpits and like hairy legs and shit like that, and that was just natural until eventually we gradually were like phasing out of that. You know, I think we're getting to a point where it's just like everybody's circumcised.
Yeah, but I feel like the opposite is the way it needs to go. It needs
Oh,
to
yeah,
go in
just
the
like
opposite direction.
natural.
Because that's the primitive desert fucking old school religious shit where you chop off the tips of baby dicks, and now we've just come up with these high-minded rationalizations as to, well, no, it's a really good thing and it's the right thing to do for health reasons. And no, bitch, it's this old fucking cultural bullshit that we're still dragging with us, and we really got to move in a direction where people are uncircumcised, where their dick is just normal. But my point is,
you could say that about hairy armpits and stuff, where it's just natural.
But there's
for
a difference
women
between fucking genital mutilation, like,
and having hairy armpits,
and just taking a fucking razor and going, dude. Like,
what about your umbilical cord? You got to cut that shit.
Well, you got to cut it just so you can live your life. You can't be attached to your fucking mother forever. So. Imagine everywhere you.
Oh, is that attached to the mother?
I think so, right? Cord? Isn't the umbilical cord attached to the mother? We look so fucking ignorant, or I look ignorant, or one of us
fucking like, what is that? A fucking pediatric doctor or something?
We should know what the fucking umbilical cord does.
But no, okay. We shouldn't know. If you did a poll, do you know what an umbilical cord does? People just know that's the shit that hangs off your belly button.
Yeah, it gets the nutrients from the mother to the baby when they're in the fucking thing, when they're in the womb. And then when they come out, they snip it because you can't fucking walk around attached to your mom.
Yeah, I guess so.
But, I think all that's true. But, yeah, so, like, but I said, no, I wouldn't want to have my kid, circumcised. I'd want to have my kid uncircumcised because I know it's fucking genital mutilation, and I know that it's the bullshit reasons people give are just bullshit reasons. But like the power of culture is so strong that even I paused when I knew basically the question was, hey, do you want to genitally mutilate your baby? Like, if you frame it like that, the answer is, fuck no, of course I don't want to fucking genitally mutilate my baby. What are you, crazy? Yeah. Why would I want to inflict that kind of pain on this poor little innocent creature? What are you, insane? But because it's such a common thing, and because that's what women in society mostly would say, I like that better. I was like, I don't know. So I had to think about it, which is a scary thing because that shows what humans are capable of. Like, female genital mutilation is obviously even worse in terms of how it's even more invasive and it's even more painful and at least even more.
Cut the vagina?
They cut the clit. And that's I don't know how prevalent it is, but it still exists in the world. Damn. And like we look at that in the West and we go, like, please, you guys are so fucking savage and barbaric. But at the same time, we're fucking snipping off tips of male baby dicks, and we think like, oh, well, that's the right thing to do. No, I don't know. It just bugs me that we haven't like graduated past a lot of this shit, and it to the point where I still have to think about it when you talk about my kid, even though the question really is a straightforward question. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, I don't know. I think there's just an evolution of shit that happens, whether it's right or wrong. So, like, if the majority of people are cutting dicks, eventually it's just going to gradually become a point where that's the norm, where, like, maybe kids are even being born with like a dick that doesn't need to be circumcised at some point. You know what I'm saying?
That's an evolution argument. Yeah. Like,
so it's like
those are preferable. So there's a baby that has like a mutation where they come out like already basically looking circumcised.
Yeah.
And then that baby gets to fuck more women and have more babies who are kind of naturally circumcised.
That's what I heard on a podcast was like the reason we evolved from like apes over time was like could be from fire evolution. Or whatever. Like like it's like
the guy who built the fire was the smarter one, was able to fuck more of the women, and then he had his babies who were smarter, and then yada yada yada. Yeah, that's evolution. So
you keep cutting the dick. Eventually, one kid's gonna be born with some like massive like 10-inch dick on a baby.
I think what's more likely is, like, you know how there's like the African tribes where the women put on the things around their neck and they stretch out their neck? Have you seen that?
No.
You haven't seen that?
Oh, yeah. No, I have.
Yeah. The long ass neck.
Mortal Kombat used to wear that shit, right? Like or Street Fighter. Remember the skeleton looking dude?
Oh, Dalsim. Yeah.
He had that shit around his neck, right?
But did it make it longer? I feel like his was just a necklace. Like, it looked like a normal size. Or maybe his head was longer. I don't remember. Maybe his neck was longer. I don't remember. But now I want to play Street Fighter.
So African women wear that to stretch their neck?
There's some cultures where they wear it and it stretches out their neck, and in that culture, that's what's viewed as beautiful. And, there are other ones where the big-ass gauges in their ears where it's, like, super fucking... You remember that, right? You've seen that on, like, National Geographic and shit. And, like, the point I'm trying to make is we are doing exactly that when we chop off the tips of baby dicks. Like, that's what it is. Like, we look at that and we go, look at these fucking weirdos with the long necks. Or look at with the fucking huge holes in their ears. We go, what a strange thing that they think that is beautiful. Like, that's what their culture is. The woman with the longest neck is like, oh my God, so hot. Well, we're just chopping off the tips of baby dicks and going, this is like enlightened.
A more
it's
presentable
not fucking
dick
enlightened.
for you.
Yeah, it's not like enlightened. Nobody, and that's the thing is like, if it was never a thing to do circumcision, the first one never even happened, and they never found it in the holy books, and they never did that shit, then no woman would have ever seen a fucking, circumcised dick, and then all the dicks that would be considered normal are uncircumcised. And it would just be like, that's just a dick. What do you mean? And if you were to see one where somebody did circumcise, be like, what the fuck is wrong with that? Big-headed fucking weird thing, mushroom top thing. So, anyway.
It probably just has to be a natural evolution of doing it. Like, so I heard or read about giraffes one time, and it was like the reason their necks are so long is because they were always reaching up on the trees or whatever to like get whatever nutrients they needed or some shit. So eventually their necks just kept getting longer and longer.
Oh, yeah. That might be true.
Our dicks should stay the same, like, because someone really had to have been fucked up to be like, I'm gonna cut this dude's dick. Like, it's not natural.
Yeah.
To cut the dick.
Yeah.
Is that like, that's what you're...
You just made me think of, it's actually true. It's true that human dick size is relatively large compared to other animals. Like, other animals' dicks are kind of fucked up. Like, they're not fucked up. They're just smaller. Like a gorilla's dick is tiny compared to the body. Like the ratio of like the body size to the dick size.
Yeah.
Yeah, because and apparently that's linked directly to how promiscuous the females are. So I think the argument goes...
Pretty interesting.
When you have... when you're like guaranteed to mate, then your dick is smaller. Am I getting that right? And when you got to like work for it, then your dick is bigger. Or if the females are promiscuous, I think it's if the females are promiscuous, your dick is bigger. If they're not promiscuous in your species, it's smaller. And I guess with gorillas, they're not promiscuous.
That would make more sense.
Yeah, I think that's what it is. So that human beings are a little more promiscuous. So we have, as a ratio, our dick size to our body size is bigger than a lot of other animals. That's a random fact.
You know what I'm fascinated by?
What?
That, like, the topic of, like, evolution. Like, just that.
It's really interesting.
Like, Joe Rogan was talking. I've been listening to Joe Rogan fucking podcasts like crazy. He was talking about how the fact that we text so much with our thumbs and all this shit, like, I don't know, 20, 30 years, fucking people's thumbs and fingers are going to be ridiculous, like, with the amount of shit they're going to do, like, how flexible they're going to be. Like, you're going to be able to put your thumb, like, fucking wrap it around, like, your whole hand, just because, like, we're so quick with our thumbs right now, like, texting, that over time, that's going to evolve into some crazy shit where our hands are going to be, like, fucking... the weirdest things ever.
It's a weird thing to think about that we're not done evolving. We're still in the middle of evolving. And what the fuck...
because we're always evolving.
Yeah, I know, but like, so what is it going to look like in 600 years, 700 years, which is still a blink of the eye in terms of the grand scheme of things. But like...
Yeah.
And they say, somebody made the point, I forget who made it, but they said, well, when you look at all the depictions of aliens, that's actually kind of the direction we're moving in, because we're moving more towards... Like, back in the day, the strongest man gets to reproduce. But now, then you moved more towards, more like wealthier, and then more like smartest. So, in all the alien pictures, you got big heads on the aliens, and you got these skinny bodies. Well, what are we doing now? Well, we're always on computers and doing technology, so we're not as active, so our bodies get skinnier, they get smaller, and our heads would get bigger as we get more information and available information. So all the depictions of aliens look like what humans could look like in the future, basically. if
it's like we're
evolution
fucking
continues.
going back in time, even though we're going forward in time.
Wait, what?
We're gonna look like the original aliens. Like
I don't
big
know. I'm
heads?
saying that's a point that somebody made, that like it's possible that when we evolve, we might end up looking like that classic, that's the standard picture everybody thinks of when they think of an alien, like the skinny body and the big head, basically.
Well, isn't it almost crazy that that's how our life cycle is? Like we start off as this little fucking small baby, and then by the end of our life, we almost turn back into that baby. Like we're hunched over and frail and small, and we shrink.
Aging is sad, man. Somebody pointed out, and this I think is true, that it's possible to like slow down the aging process, because they've isolated the things that happen in aging. There's like a few things that happen in aging, and it's like all you have to do is come up with individual treatments that affect each one of those things, and then you could slow it down massively, or even like stop it at a certain point. So it's like a code that's crackable. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And we're gonna miss it. That's the thing that's sad.
Well, Rogan talks about doing like that. It's not bad to do steroids right now because it gives you like, well, not now for us, we're in our 20s, but when you're like 40 or 50 or something like that, because
testosterone replacement treatment.
Exactly.
There's probably truth to that, but I'd like to see studies on that. And also, I don't know the effect steroids or testosterone has on your heart.
Okay.
Yeah, because there's some people who went crazy with steroids had heart attacks really young, so maybe it like fucks up your arteries or whatever with your heart and like clogs them and shit. But yeah, outside of that, other bodily functions, you'd want to have like I don't know because like women on average live a lot longer than men, and one of the biggest differences between men and women is women have more estrogen and less testosterone, and men have shitload more testosterone. And one of the theories is that testosterone is like it'll cut your life shorter because for whatever reason, I don't know the science behind it, but like when you're going through puberty is when you have your most testosterone, like or like whatever, early 20s or some shit. And like I distinctly remember like in the height of working out like crazy and like being the horniest, like I'm a fucking monkey. And that's like when my testosterone levels were the highest. And it's like, is that what I want to feel when I'm 78? Like, no, I kind of want to chill.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
But that also goes with the body breaking. Like, I don't know.
The body breaking down thing. There might be he might have a point there for sure. That like testosterone might prevent some of the processes where the body breaks down and stuff. Totally. Definitely muscle mass in your older age gets worse, and testosterone could just stop that. Yeah, totally. I mean, look at fucking Sylvester Stallone. I don't even know how old he is, but he's still fucking ripped. He looks ridiculous.
He's got to be juicing.
Oh, 100%. There's no doubt. No doubt.
And
There's
like
a lot of people who are
Schwarzenegger's
just
still
clearly
fucking
juicing.
crazy good shape.
Nah, Schwarzenegger kind of looks like a normal guy now.
You think so?
Yeah. Sylvester Stallone still looks amazing.
Hugh Jackman's got to be fucking juicing.
Yeah, I definitely think he did. The Rock, definitely. Juicing, 100%.
Yeah.
By the way, it's like I love how it's like it's easy to tell. Like if you can't tell, like, well, seriously, like you don't know that a human body can't look like that without fucking something.
Yeah.
Final point, real quick. I think they gotta ban, not literally ban it, but like I need the media to stop reporting on studies about sleep, coffee, and wine, because I've seen nothing but contradictory stuff about all those things. Yeah. Have you ever seen the headlines in the media like, coffee reduces your chance of fill in the blank with some disease, and then the next in 3 months from then you'll see a headline: coffee increases the chance of fill in the blank. One glass of wine a day is good for you, and then like a few months later, glasses of wine are terrible for you, and then don't oversleep. Oversleep is horrible for you. Don't undersleep. Undersleep is horrible for you. It's actually good to sleep a little bit less. It's actually good to sleep a little bit more. Like, there's nothing but contradictory shit on sleep, wine, and coffee.
The news is exactly like the fucking weatherman. Like, they don't know dick about what they're talking about. Like, the fucking studies and the stupid shit they say, like, it's just so fucking stupid that I don't even pay attention to it. It's just like, will your cell phone cause hip cancer? Tune in tonight at 6 o'clock. Like, it's just like, it makes you think for a second. Like,
no, that's why I'm mad, is because it fucking made, like, every time I see, coffee's reducing the risk of heart something. Like, and I'm like, great, I'll have more coffee. And then a few months later, coffee's bad for you and will give you,
disproven.
Rape your grandma. Yeah, it's like, what? I thought it was good. And they do the same shit with wine and the same shit with sleep. There was one that said, like, don't sleep too much because it'll increase your chance of whatever, like stroke or something. And I'm like, what? But then I'm reading all these articles about how sleeping, you have to sleep that number of hours to get really get refreshed. And I'm just confused. And I'm like, I don't even know what the fuck the answer is.
And then people just start making up their own fucking remedies and shit. They're like, hey, I heard on the news that you can't sleep too much because then you fucking get raped in your ass by a donkey. And you're just like, what the fuck?
And the people who are convinced of their, like, no, this is what it is. And I heard it. Really? Where'd you even hear it? I don't remember. So what are you talking about? That happens all the time.
This shit is so fucking stupid.
We got to cut it, son, because we're an hour and 45, and you and I both had long dizzies. All right. So love y'all. Corin, thanks again, brother. For everybody who doesn't know, this was recorded on Tuesday? Tuesday night?
Tuesday.
And it'll be up Wednesday for the morning, for what would normally be the live show. So, all right, love y'all. I will see you tomorrow. Corin will see you next week. Peace. Mwah.